Good morning, dear students. Welcome to Environmental Science class. We are dealing with chapter number 1, that is modes of existence. Dear, in the last class or in the first class of this chapter, we have learned about the two modes of existence. One is hunting and gathering. Dear, and I have told you that with each and every modes of existence, you have to go through the general features, their social organization, right? Their ideology or idiom of man-nature relationship, scale of catchment, the access to resources, and the ecological impact. So we have gone through the hunting and gathering modes of existence. Then we have done the pastoralism's mode of existence. Now we'll deal with the third mode of existence, that is agricultural mode of existence. Okay, so today we will cover the two modes of existence, that is agricultural and industrialism modes of existence. So we'll start with the third one, that is agricultural mode of existence. So general features, we can say that the agricultural depends on the domestication of plants and animals. So that means they were totally dependent on the domestication of plants and animals, and depending on the geographical locations, features the food varied from root crops in the tropical forest to the coconut in the Pacific and pineapple in America. Cultivations of cereals, however, gained ground as harvesting crops was less laborious and also easier to store. So in general, in briefly, we can say that the agricultural mode of existence, they were totally dependent on domestication of plants and animals. Okay, the few examples we can give over here is the Boros, B-O-R-O-S, Boros, okay, the Yorubas, Y-O-R-U-B-A, the Yorubas, and the Bolokis, B-O-L-O-K-I-S, Boloki. These are the few examples of the agricultural mode of existence. Clear? Now let's talk about the social organizations of this agricultural mode of existence. The agricultural society originated from the hunters and food gatherers, since they gave up their nomadic existence and settled down in one place. They could afford the luxury of accumulation or accumulating the material goods and lead to a more secure lifestyle. Thanks to the reduced uncertainty in the food supply, they formed larger community. So we can say that this agricultural society, they originated from the hunters and gatherers. Okay, now hunters and gatherers, they were nomadic. They used to move from one place to another place. Okay, but these agricultural societies, they gave up nomadic existence and settled down in one place. Okay, they could accumulate material goods, leads a secure lifestyle. So mainly those agricultural, solely those hunter and gatherers, they used to keep on moving from one place to another place. But these agricultural societies, they just gave up this nomadic mode of life and they just settled down in one place. Okay, so therefore they originated from the hunters and gatherers mode of existence, or from the hunters and gather society. Okay, then in these predominantly particular societies, patriarchal societies, the chiefs and the tribal leaders play a major role in decision making. For example, the Boros, the Yorubas, and the Boloki, these are the few tribal peoples of the agricultural societies. So here the tribal chief, okay, or the patriarchal society, the tribal chief, the tribal leaders play important role in making decisions. Okay, so they have formed larger communities. So they have got patriarchal societies where the tribal leaders or the tribal chief used to make the major decisions. So they have got the major role in decision making. Okay, so cultivation is done mainly by the men folk, though women to play they have to play an important role. So men are the important one who play an important role in cultivation, but at the same time the women also used to play an important role. Okay, trade and political ties exist between the villages. The agriculturalists are the more aggressive than the pastoralists. Okay, now let's talk about the ideology or the idiom of man-nature relationship. So they say that environment is like an ancestor. Okay, so for them, for the agriculturists, the environment is like an ancestor. Environment gives its resources, on a reciprocal basis. So you should think that environment is their ancestor, and to them the environment gives the resources on a reciprocal manner. So let's talk about the scale of catchment. The scale of catchment is higher as compared to the food gatherer and pastoralist. Here different techniques are used to increase the production and get the maximum from nature. So that two mode of existence, which was hunter and gatherer, and number two pastoralists, they were not able to utilize the resources provided by the nature to the maximum level. But this agricultural society, they were able to utilize the resources given by the nature up to the maximum, up to their benefit. Okay, better implement irrigation methods and quality seeds all ensured a higher output, which in turn means higher economic status. So that means compared to the hunter and gatherer and pastoralists, these agricultural societies, they have got a high economic status. Clear? Next one, access to resources. The agriculturists cleared the forest and learned to cultivate their own food. Point number one, they were able to do agriculture, they were able to cultivate their own land. Wide variety of animals ranging from the mammoth, the wild pig, down to the birds and rodents were trapped for food. Trees were used for building shelters. Some tribes used cocoa and tobacco in large quantities, while salt was extracted from the sap of saline plants. Oil was used for cooking and lighting. Fishing too was common among the riverside and coastal community. That means these particular societies were highly advanced compared to the pastoralists and the hunters and gatherers. Okay, so these were using a wide variety of plants, were using wide variety of animals for their food. Trees were used for building shelters, all extracted from the sap of saline plants. Okay, all was used for cooking, for lighting, fishing was done. So those things, they're usually evolving. Okay, so they are developed different modes for their existence, for their stability. Okay, now let's talk about the ecological impact. So the agrarian societies came into existence when man began to grow his own crop and gave up the nomadic style for existence. True, because they usually gave up the nomadic mode of life and they came into existence. In order to ensure the maximum output, environment was changed. Listen carefully. In order to gain the maximum output, they were changing the environment. In order to meet their need, they were changing the environment in which they were living. Forests were cleared to grow the crops, and this resulted in not only disturbances of habitat and geochemical cycle, but also the loss of the biodiversity. In the absence of trees, the soil erosion accelerated and there is global warming. The use of fertilizers and pesticides lead to the problems such as eutrophications, where there will be growth of unwanted plants and algae, and biomagnifications, where the level of pesticides and insecticides will keep on increasing from one trophic level to another trophic level, and bringing about a lot of changes in the ecosystems. Okay, so they have got a maximum impact on the environment. Now let's talk about the next mode of existence, that is industrialism or industrials. So it was only in the 19th century that the industrial revolution took place, bringing about an entire change in the lifestyle of people. This was the era where the men learned to exploit the resources to the maximum extent. The use of fuel, the generation of electricity, the use of modern technology was all instrumental in disturbing the ecosystems. It is true that there was a sharp increase in populations, but the changes were far more than proportionate. So we can say that in the industrial mode of life, the general features could be that the reliance on machinery to support the big industries, men learned to exploit industries or resources to the maximum, the use of fuel, electricity generations, use of modern technology, instrumental in disturbing the ecosystem came into existence. So mainly this industrial revolution took place in generally 19th century. So let's talk about social organizations under the industrial mode of life. So it is very much complex. Alright, there is a distinct inclination towards the organizations. Life has become more comfortable with the introductions of various gadgets, but also very much more hectic. The kinship which was so prominent in the other modes of existence has lost its importance. Nuclear families have become common, and social life is more detached and impersonal. Social organizations is dictated by class, caste, occupation, and political power. People are more competitive and aggressive. A heterogeneous group with little in common live within a territory. So there is distinct inclination towards urbanization, development of urban natures. Okay, kinship has lost importance. Nuclear family became common. Okay, dictated by class, caste, occupations, political power, and heterogeneous group of people came into existence. All right, literally living in a common territory. Now let's talk about the idiom of man-nature relationship. Nature is there to just fulfill the needs of the man. Okay, so according to the ideology or the idiom of man-nature relationship in industrial mode of existence, nature is simply there to fulfill the man's need. So in the societies, man becomes all-powerful and subjugated. Nature here, the idea became that nature was there to just fulfill the man's need. In order to just simply fulfill the needs of the people, to fulfill demands of the people, nature was there. This was the ideology of the societies of the people of the industrial mode of existence. Let's talk about the scale of catchment. The industrial community has developed ability and power to utilize the resources to the maximum. So here, due to the ability and the power to utilize resources to the maximum, so people were able to utilize the resources from the nature to the maximum level by the development of its ability and the power to utilize those resources. The raw materials are harvested from the nature and then processed to order to get the maximum economic benefit. Man in the society has the power to make the use of both renewable and non-renewable resources and change the environment to suit its need. So maximum economic benefit we can see in the industrial mode of existence. Power to make use of both renewable and non-renewable source energy can be seen in this mode of existence. Renewable means those energy which can be recycled, which can be used again and again, and non-renewable means those which cannot be recycled. Those which are been used now cannot be recycled. They are called non-renewable. Okay, now let's talk about the access to resources. The industrial economy has its renewable and non-renewable resources which man can use at his own directions. Although he has access to all the resources and is in a position to exploit it to the maximum, he has to make sure that the development is sustainable, and so is the consumption. If he fails to realize the importance of sustainability, he may find that he has no resources at his disposal in the future. So here we can see the importance of sustainable development without hampering the environment, the nature. Though the people of this industrial mode of existence, they were able to use the resources to its maximum. They were able to exploit all the resources available to them, but at the same time they must give importance to sustainable development which can take place without hampering the nature balance, without hampering the environment. If they will fail to maintain the importance of sustainability, the development of sustainable development, then he has no resources at disposal in the future. So this importance must be given by those peoples who were at the industrial mode of existence. So they were taking into considerations the importance of sustainable development, though they were able to utilize the resources to its maximum and they were able to exploit all the natural resources which was available to them, but they give due importance to the sustainable development so that those resources will be available to them in the coming future also. All right, next one. Ecological impact. The industrial lifestyle is the one which causes maximum impact on the environment because they were able to utilize all the resources to its maximum level. Agricultural land and forest have been cleared to make way for the industries. So there was deforestation. The agricultural land was being changed in industries and for urban development. The clearing of forest have disturbed the balance in the ecosystem. There has been loss of habitat and also loss of biodiversity. So whenever there will be deforestations, whenever the agricultural land will be changed in industries and the urban development takes place, obviously there will be loss of biodiversity and the balance of the nature will be disturbed. Okay, the trees which had been responsible for purification of air and for rainfalls are no longer there. There have been undesirable climatic changes, soil erosions, global warming. Okay, the pollution generalized by the industries has made a detrimental effect on the environment. Development activities such as mining, making of roads, right, have squared the landscape and added to the pollutions. The increase in populations and waste generations has added unwanted matter to the water body. The industries are responsible for acid rain as they give off various acidic gases which not only harm the man-made structures but also affect the pH of the soil and the biotic factor present. The increase in vehicular traffic has added to the air pollutions. It cannot be denied that though industrialization has brought wealth, it has also been responsible for dramatic changes in the environment. The forest cover has greatly reduced and the melting of glacier is a warning to mankind about what can happen in nature or in the future. So here you can see that the maximum impact on environment is mainly done by the industrial societies, because the agricultural land has been changed into the industries, into the urban area. So there was a changing climatic conditions in that place. There was change in the environmental conditions. All right, there was deforestations. The trees was less, which will purify the air, which will bring transpirations, which will bring the rainfall. So all these changes was going on, which are disturb the ecological balance of that area. Clear? So the hydrological cycle has been changed. Pollution was there. Due to development of industries, water pollution was taking place. It was bringing the acid rain. And that acid rain was not only degrading the man-made architecture's building, but it was also affecting the pH of the soil. There are soil erosions. The soil was not supporting the growth of the agricultural plants. Okay, so in overall we can say that though this industrialism has led to the increase in the wealth of the society, but at the same time it has led to the detrimental effect on the environment where they were surviving, where we are usually living. Okay, and these changes are brought to such an extent that it cannot be healed. And the fact is that due to these pollutions, air pollutions, water pollution and all those things, it is definitely leading to the phenomenon called global warming, where the glaciers are melting. And we know what can be the consequences in the coming future when this pollution keeps on increasing. So therefore we can see a drastic impact on the environment, on the ecology due to the industrial society. Okay, so here we have finished the 4 modes of existence. What are those 4 modes? Number 1, hunting and gatherers, hunters and gatherers. Number 2, pastoralism. Number 3, agricultural. And number 4, industrialism. So these are the 4 modes of existence. So now let's talk about the coexistence of the 4 modes of existence in India. So India is a fast developing nation. Rapid industrializations and urbanizations has made India modern and it parred with Western countries. It's true. However, India is a blend of old and new. On one hand, we have the industrial mode of existence, and on the other hand, much of rural India is still agricultural or pastoral. Right? So in India, we are finding the industrial mode of existence, and at the same time we're also finding the agricultural and the pastoral mode of existence also. Some elements of modernity may have filtered in by way of technology in the field of agriculture, but it cannot be denied that in spite of certain technologies influences, the India remains on the whole an agricultural country. It's true. Though there are different types of technologies which have been developed in the field of agricultural, and though they are using it, but we cannot deny that the India is totally dependent on agricultural products. It is an agricultural country. The pastoral and agricultural modes of existence have also coexistence, and it remains so even now. That means the pastoral and the agricultural mode of existence, they are still existing together. Okay. So in the remote parts of India like Andaman and Nicobar Island, in the south or in the north east Himalayan regions, life is far more basic than in the rest of the country. The Jarwas of Andamans, the tribes in the deep central India and interior northeastern regions are still nomadic. They display features of the hunter-gatherers, while tribal regions of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and any other forested regions are inhabited by the communities exhibiting most resemblance to the pastoral forms of existence. So that means the agricultural mode of existence and the pastoral mode of existence can still be seen in most of the parts of our country. The tribes in these regions are living examples of food gatherers and hunters. It can be truly said that India is a mega diversity nation. So let's talk about the ecological conflicts arising therein. So the various modes of existence have conflicting interests. The hunter-gatherers are totally dependent on forest, and their welfare lies in the conservation of forest. That is true, because they are totally dependent on the forest products, so they have to conserve the forest. However, the agriculturists and the pastoralists, to serve their own interests, clear the forest to make the way for agricultural land and pasture for the pastoral farms. That is true, because the agriculturists and the pastoralists, they are merely clearing the forest in order to grow the agricultural crop and the agricultural plant. So this leads to the fragmentation and the loss of habitats, the loss of biodiversity also. The agriculturists promoted the cultivations of certain species at the cost of others. That is true, because they were cutting the tree and they were clearing the area and they were growing the crop. So they were usually like promoting the growth of other plants while paying the cost of other plants. We can say that is true. Okay, so many underground species have become extinct. The excessive use of fertilizer led to eutrophications, which causes the death of aquatic species, and biomagnifications, the increase in the growth of the increase in the concentration of the pesticides in the agricultural field that mainly affect all the organisms in ecosystem that we have done already in this chapter ecology. The pastoralists too domesticated certain animals, leading to the extinction of the wild variety of herbivore. The industrial lifestyle encroached on the agricultural land and pasture. Moreover, pollution by industrial unit adversely affected the environment. It's very true, with high amount of pollutions. Water pollution affected marine life, leading to extinction of marine species. Industry spring forth carbon dioxide, that leads to global warming, changing the landscape and climatic conditions, affecting the lifestyles of all the communities: hunter, gatherer, agriculturalist, and the pastoralist. So here we can see that hunters and gatherers, they were trying to conserve the environment. They were trying to conserve the forest because they were the one who were totally dependent on the forest and the products, right? Then came this agriculturalist who were clearing the forest, the agriculturalist and the pastoralist who were cultivating, clearing the forest. They are going for deforestation in order to cultivate the plant, to cultivate the crop. But they were doing that with the cost of other plants and animals, so that many of the plants have become extinct. Most of the animals, they become extinct, right? Then, but all these three mode of existence, they were highly suppressed by the industrial mode of existence, where the rapid growing industries lead to pollution. There was air pollution, water pollution, right? And most of the harmful gases was emitted from the industries, and those gases, those harmful emissions from the industries, have led to the global warming. Clear? So therefore we can say that the three mode of existence, that is hunter-gatherers, agriculturals, and pastorals, were highly affected by the industrial mode of existence. Clear? So here we have finished the first chapter also, that is modes of existence. Clear? So kindly go through it, kindly go from the book also. It's not a tough chapter, it's very easy chapter. So kindly go through the four modes of existence. Clear? So this was for today. See you in next class, and in the next class we will begin with the next chapter, that is pollution. Okay, so thank you and see you in next class.